Hey guys, Jeremy here again with Video Gaming Hardcore. Hopefully you watched the first video, as this is part 2 in what is making the Whirlwind Barb work. First part went over the skill build, basically, essentially why it does what it does. If you haven't watched that already, I would encourage you to watch that first, as I'm just going to kind of pick up from there. This video is just going to give you the basics of what you want to look for in gear to make the build do what it's supposed to do. Some of the most important things that you're going to want to focus on is your weapons. The main hand, which I'm pretty happy with mine. Again, it's not, maybe it could be a little better, but I really personally like the Sky Splitter. But the main things you want to look for in your main hand weapon are strength, obviously, since that's what's dealing your damage. Attack speed is nice, not 100% necessary, but it does help. Obviously, plus percent of damage. It's pretty easy to find as far as that goes. The other thing that I do want to discuss briefly before I go into that, this could have been put into the build section, but because it does tie so closely into your gear, I decided to put it here, which is the passives. There are a few. Nerves of Steel, I think, is important. You want to get Vitality. I'll be honest, I could probably use a little more myself. But the more Vitality you get, the more life you have, the more hits you can take, and then it increases your armor as well. So you're doing two things at once. Next is Ruthless, because this build really is very crit dependent. So the more chance you have to crit, the more damage your crits are doing, the better off you're going to be. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. The last part is Weapons Master. This is the biggest thing that does tie into gear, which is, as I said, why I left it in this part of the video. Any type of weapon you use will change what you're getting in what you're using in your main hand. What in your offhand is irrelevant. Because this build is so crit dependent, you want a mace or an axe. Sword or dagger is nice, 15% increased damage is cool. Pull armor and spears, attack speed is nice, but pretty unimportant for this build, and mighty weapons are just unfortunately completely useless, which is sad because that is the weapon type that is specific to the barb, but it really is not going to give you what you want here. You want to use Weapons Master, you want a mace or an axe in the main hand, because that crit hit chance is what this build is all about. So, to get back to the gear, as I said, main hand weapon, you want strength, you want plus the damage. Really, anything else you get past that is really on you. It's not that big a deal. The biggest thing aside from that you want is a socket in both your main and offhand weapons, because you need to have an emerald in there. As I said, and I'm going to keep saying it, this build is very crit dependent. You want to be, getting a crit as often as possible and having it hit as hard as possible. Now, again, my gems are not fully upgraded. These are only stars, but they're doing their job. Eventually, as I play more, I do want to upgrade those. But even just a star, 70% crit hit damage increase is still pretty nice. As far as in the offhand, now again, I'm doing it a little differently. Some of the things I'm doing are a little unusual. Some of it is just personal preference and what I like. I'm personally proud of this in that I actually did get this from a drop from GOM. And it was better when I was using anyway. So, but again, what you're looking for is, on the offhand, it's going to be a little different. The DPS does not need to be as high, because the sprint tornadoes, their damage only goes off of your main hand weapon. Whirlwind will alternate between main hand and offhand, but given that sprint tornadoes are your main source of damage, you really want the DPS on your main hand. Now again, I'm right about 1,000. If you can get over that, it's better, but it's still pretty decent. So the DPS here is not as important, but what is important is life on hit, which this does have. Plus percent of damage is nice. If you can get strength on it, cool. If not, not as big a deal. Again, you really want a socket, because you want the socket of both your emeralds to get that crit damage as high as possible. Other than that, on pretty much anything else you're doing, you want strength. Vitality is good because you want to be able to take a hit since you are going through all the enemies. Sockets wherever you can get them for rubies to increase your strength. Again, I only have stars right now, but that's still pretty sufficient. That's the biggest thing that you want on these. The other thing you do want is life on hit, anywhere you can get it. So obviously a big way you can get it, is through the weapon. But anything else you can get with life on hit is great. The other things you want are all resists. Anything you can get plus to life is good. The other thing that I don't think is discussed as much with these builds that I think should be is life regeneration. because the more life regen you have, that it says per second, it actually ticks every half second. So the more life regen you have, even if your actual life is a little bit lower, if your life on hit is a little bit lacking, the more life regen you have, if you just need to step away from the battlefield for a second, just to kite a little bit, you can get your life back really quickly. So while everything else is important, I don't think life regen is talked about as much, just in general. And I think for a lot of different classes, a lot of different builds, is something you should look into a little bit more. It really, really helps. Other than that, anywhere you can get it, you want crit hit damage and crit hit chance. You know, as given here, gloves are great because they can give both. But anywhere you can get crit hit chance or crit hit damage, you want it. So again, all resists. Obviously, life on hit is very important since it does trigger off everything. You are always hitting things, so you want to be getting back as much life as possible because it's Inferno. You will be taking damage. It's just a matter of figuring out how to deal with that and mitigate that as much as you can. So that's really the biggest thing there. The other thing is, on a belt, you can get life steal. There's some debate between life steal and life on hit. The thing is that with this build, while lifesteal is great, life on hit is more important because you're doing as much damage as you are with this build because you are hitting so often, not because every hit is dealing, 200k. We're not demon hunters. We are barbarians. We're not going to deal as much damage per hit, but we are hitting a lot. So the percent lifesteal is not as important. It's good to get it where you can't get life on hit on a belt, so lifesteal there is good. But everywhere else, life on hit, to me, really is just that much more important. So again, just wherever you can, strength, life on hit, crit hit damage, crit hit chance. So that's really what's going to make the build do what it does. As I alluded to in the first video, my gear is not super top tier. It is good. I actually just recently got these Firewalkers just to play around with them. I had different boots. So we're going to see how this goes. I don't really know how much damage the fire on the ground is going to do. I'm hoping that by whirlwinding around it's going to, hit a lot of things, and then based on my offhand it does add 6% to fire damage, so we'll see. But as I said, my gear is not super amazing. It is good, more than good enough. The things you really want to look for, as I said, just focus on those stats that I gave you. I'll be honest, this build is not as cheap to get gear for as it used to be. In earlier versions of the game, it did take less gold to get the same gear as you would get now. As you can see right now, I'm not exactly super rich right now. I've put a decent amount of gold into this gear. If I really wanted to get top tier, I'd be spending a lot more. There's still a couple things I'm looking at, but I need a lot more gold than I have right now. But it's not the most expensive build to gear either. The one thing to remember, and what a lot of people lose sight of, is that from normal through hell difficulties, you're just going through the acts one after the other. The thing you have to realize, once you get to Inferno, you need more patience. Because, you're going to gain your Paragon levels, which is great now in that it just gives you built-in MF. Because frankly, I was never a fan of having to either have MF gear to run around with and try to kill things with, or switching out right before killing, the last elite in a pack. Never really liked that. A lot of people did it. I never really cared for it. I like the Paragon level system. It gives us options. It lets us farm with regular gear so that we have a chance of a good drop. Then even if we don't, we're leveling up to increase our stats, increase our MF, and just increase that chance even further. So it's really, really nice to be able to do that. To get back to what I was saying, is that you may be running Act 1 Inferno for a while. And that's the thing, is that you're going to kind of have to learn to be okay with that. I did a lot of Act 1 Inferno runs, a lot of them before 1.04, which is why I'm only Paragon 10. But that's the thing, is that the jump from Act 1 Inferno to Act 2 Inferno is big. It is not the same. Whereas I started being able to, when I first did, I started being able to take care of elite packs in Act 1 Inferno pretty efficiently. Act 2 Inferno regular enemies started crushing me. So it is a big jump. And the thing is you can get gear, or if nothing else, you can get gold. So you're farming for not only gold, not only gear, you're also farming for experience, because that's going to help you later on. The other option, and this is something that some people like doing, some people don't, is to buy some gold farming gear, stuff that gives you gold, enemies drop more gold, gold pickup radius you want a little bit of. and then farming that in either Act 1 Inferno if you're good enough, or, you know, Act 3 Hell. This is also an option. It can yield pretty decent results. The thing is that Inferno is not the sprint that normal through Hell was. Those difficulties are very easy to get through, and honestly, you don't even really need that great gear to get through them. Inferno, you start needing better gear. Again, you don't need to have only the best to get through it. Like, I can do my Act 3 farming runs more than well enough with this gear and this build. But obviously the better gear you have, the easier it's going to be, the faster it's going to be, the more effective your runs are going to be. So the point is, guys, is have patience. You know, understand that Inferno is a marathon, not a sprint, and pun totally not intended, just realized what I did. But that's the thing, is that it's very easy to get caught up in feeling like, well, I'm just never going to have the gear. I mean, some of the videos you watch guys that, you know, have had hundreds of millions of gold, that have all the best gear in the world, have a character that can just face roll through anything in the game. Understand that if you're watching this video, that's probably not you. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't feel like your character is lacking. Don't feel like you can never get to that point, because A, most people don't get it to that point, so it's not just you. It's certainly I'm not going to be at that point. But B, you don't need to be at that point. There is a way to go about this that does not require you to not have a job and not have a life and only play Diablo 3 all day every day. There's a way to do this to still have fun, to still enjoy your Diablo 3 experience without, you know, only devoting your life to it. It just will take some extra time. It takes some patience. You know, trust me, it took me a while, you know, to get even this much. And I, you know, have high aspirations that hopefully it'll be more. So just that's the message I have for you. You know, be patient. Find a build that you like. Hopefully, between these two videos, some people who thought the Whirlwind Barb couldn't work have gotten a kind of a new perspective on it. I'm hoping that this will encourage some of you to try it out, see that the build is actually really good. Without it, I probably would still be stuck in Act 1 Inferno, to be honest with you. So I'm hoping it'll inspire you. And the other thing I want you to inspire you to do is really play around with your own builds. I mean, every class has their own way of getting through Inferno, and yes, you can solo it. You know, it does take some work, but it can be done, and it can be done with any class. So I think it's important to watch videos like these, get an idea for what's out there, get an idea for what can be done, but then also remember that it's up to you to find what works best for you. If I just went with what I had read online, I would have tried the original Double Tornado build, said I can't do this, and given up, and I don't know where, you know, my characters would be right now. But I played around with some stuff. As I said, I went to Bash, which really helped me out. I went to Rend, which frankly changed the game for me, and that suddenly elite packs that I was dying to, now I was destroying them. You know, there's a lot of different things out there. A lot of frameworks for builds are out there. A lot of really good builds are out there. But with that said, play around with them yourself. If you like a build, but there's one skill that you're just saying, that just doesn't work for me, well, then don't use it. You know, figure out what does work for you, because you're not going to have fun just playing the build that somebody else tells you to play. You're going to have fun by doing what makes most sense for you, by what works best for you. So I realize I'm rambling a little bit, so I'm going to cut it off. I hope you guys have enjoyed the videos. I hope they taught you a little something. If you guys have any other questions about the build or about the equipment, please feel free to leave a comment. I will absolutely be checking on them. If there's any questions, I will do my best to answer them as quickly as I can. If there's anything else you guys are curious about, you know, as far as Diablo 3 in general goes, I'll be happy to answer you the best I can. My best experience, my best knowledge comes from the Barbarian and the Monk. But, you know, I do know some stuff about the other classes as well. So if there's any questions you guys have, really about anything, let me know. If there's anything else you'd like to see in the video, if there's some more, if you'd like to see more gameplay, if there's anything else you guys would like to see in another video, definitely let me know, and I'll do what I can for you. So take care, guys.